What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the trade deadline for the Detroit Lions, and specifically Quinnen Williams. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're diving into some trade deadline talk. But let me just say, this may be the only trade deadline video that we do for the Detroit Lions this year, unless some direct rumors come up for the Detroit Lions after this video. Like, hey, they could be interested in our player, we could be interested in this player, okay? If that stuff comes up, yes, we'll do a video on that. But as of now, this could be the final video that we do before the trade deadline, so I just want to point that out. So that's why we're doing this video. I've had a lot of people ask for it. And also, we're talking about Quinnen Williams, okay? I've had a lot of people ask me for a Quinnen Williams breakdown video because I've talked about him for like 3 minutes in another one, but people want a full Quinnen Williams video. So that's kind of what this is, and at the end, we'll talk about some players that maybe the Lions should be interested in when it comes to the trade deadline. But I want to be honest with you guys. I've looked at the trade block, the most recent trade block. I've looked at a lot of players that are available, and I just don't know if there's that guy that I think the Lions should really go after. I just don't know if I see that right now in terms of players available, but this could change. And there also could be names that come up that maybe I haven't seen yet. So I'm not saying that the Lions won't make any moves. As you guys may have saw in my Jared Davis video, I'm predicting the Lions won't make any moves. I'm pretty much to the side they're going to stand pat and do nothing. I know how the Lions do things at trade deadline. Usually not making any trades. Now, if they can pull off a steal like they got Snacks Harrison for the rest of the year, that may be something if it's a late round pick. But I just don't see the Lions pulling off some big blockbuster trade, and I also don't see them selling whatsoever. So that's just kind of my prediction. But I've had a lot of people ask me about Quinnen Williams, so we're going to be talking about him in today's video. Now, what it seems like from social media is that the Jets are asking a second-round pick for Quinnen Williams. I know it's a super high pick, so we'll get into that, but that seems to be their asking price as of now. And they said, hey, basically, if you give us a second-round pick, we can't turn that down. We'll take it for Quinnen Williams. So should the Lions, be interested in? Actually, there's a lot of Lions fans that want to make this trade happen. They're like, second-round pick, do it, make it happen. And I think a lot of that has to do with, well, because of kind of his name and who he is and who he was. And I think also it's just like, hey, it's exciting. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited, too, when the Lions make a trade. It's like, oh, snap, new player. We're making a push now, and it's just exciting, right? It seems like, you're really buying in, and they're really trying to make a push when they make a trade, so I think that's where a lot of the trade excitement comes from. But we're going to talk about it. Does it make sense for the Lions to actually trade for Quinnen Williams? So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, I want to talk about Quinnen Williams a little bit first before we get into his game.
Listen, thank you.
And then we'll get into his game specifically. What I think he does well, what he doesn't do well, his stats, everything like that. I will get into that. I'm also going to show you some film clips, but I really want to talk about what I think Quinnen Williams' trade would mean for the Detroit Lions or any team that tries to make this move. For the Detroit Lions, Quinnen Williams is a risky trade, and the reason I say that is because right now our front office is kind of in the air. When it comes to Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn, we don't really know as fans, as the fan perspective, what the future looks like. You're sitting at 2-3. The trade deadline is November 3rd, which is 2 days after our Colts game. We don't really know what our front office looks like right now. We don't know if it's going to stay, and we don't know if it's going to change, right? It's kind of just completely up in the air. It's like a 50-50 right now. And because of that, as fans, it's really hard to decide whether or not the Lions are going to make a big trade like this. Let's just say, hypothetically, they're asking for a second-round pick, and you have to give up a second-round pick to make this trade. That's a lot for, an organization and a team that really doesn't know what the future looks like. I don't even know if the Lions know what the future looks like. They may be using the same approach as we are. Wait and see, right? We've told them they have to be playoff contenders. Let's just wait and see what happens. So at this point, it's a lot to say, okay, you guys can use a second-round pick to bring in a player for this season, especially a guy like Quinnen Williams, because when I look at Quinnen Williams, and we'll dive more into his production and what I see from him on field, I see Quinnen Williams as this, a guy that will help you now. There's no doubt about it. But he's not the guy, right? He's not that guy right now that's such an insane, phenomenal playmaker right now that he's going to take your team from this level to the complete next level. Now, he will help you. He will make you better. He will add depth. But he's not going to make you great right now. However, what I do see is also a player that can help you now and is even going to help you more coming years. Because the thing with Quinnen Williams, he's only been in the league for 2 years. This is only his second year. He's a former third pick in the draft. He has a 4-year deal, right? It's not a super expensive deal because he is a rookie. So if you trade for him, you're not getting him just for this year. You're getting him for the next couple. So this is one of those trades that you're making for a guy that says, okay, yeah, we see that he can help us now, but we're really looking at him as a guy that could be a big help and a big cornerstone of this team in the upcoming seasons. And when you look at a guy like Danny Shelton, he's on a 2-year deal. So after next season, then his deal will be up. Quinnen Williams will be the guy that could be on the final year of his deal, right? So you could get an extra year out of a player like Quinnen Williams. That's what I see. This is not a player to me that I'm looking at and saying, okay, you make this trade because this is the guy that helps you now. You're not really thinking about the future. This is just strictly a win now move. This is also a move for the future. And that's why I think this is risky, because you don't know what your front office looks like, right? Unless you're confident that's going to be Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, this move becomes a little bit foggy, right? Because you don't exactly know what your future looks like. And a second round pick is no joke. Like, especially if you have Bob Quinn, we know how much he values draft picks. A second round pick is a very high pick. Now, let's be real here. Bob Quinn, the second round has been awful. Everywhere else, been pretty solid. The second round, it's been his kryptonite, man. He just can't seem to hit on picks. Now, Swift looks good. Swift looks like he may have finally hit on one. Aside from Swift, it's been kind of rough. Even though that's been the case, the second round picks are still nothing to mess with. You get a second round pick, that's a lot. I mean, Yannick went for a third and a fifth. So I think that tells you the value of a second round pick. And the reason the value is so high is because he's so young, and because it's not just strictly, hey, here, we're going to drop him. You guys can have him for the rest of the year, and then we don't know what his future is because he's getting old. This is, hey, you take him. This could be part of your future. This could be a cornerstone of your future if you really see that. This is a former third pick in the draft. Now, I try to put that aside when I look at a player like this, because I feel like if you get too caught up in what he was coming out of the draft, then all of a sudden that kind of clouds your vision of who he is now. You start to focus on, oh, he was great out of the draft, but you don't focus on, okay, well, what has he done in the NFL, right? It's a different league, right? It's a different level of football. What is he doing now? Because to me, that's way more important than what he did back in Alabama. So let's dive into his strengths and weaknesses and stats, and then I'll talk about whether or not I think the Lions should make this move, and then you guys can make that decision. So let's first start off with his strengths, and then we'll get into the stats, okay? Starting off with his strengths, the first thing that I like about him is his athleticism. He's 309 pounds, and he's 6'3". All right, that's a big dude. Danny Shelton is 350 pounds. The most comparable player that we have on our defensive line is probably Nick Williams, who is 6'5", 309 pounds. Excuse me. Quinnen Williams is 6'3", 303. Nick Williams is 6'5", 309. So you can see the comparison there. They're probably the closest in size, you know, if you're comparing players, Nick Williams to Quinnen Williams. I'll tell you, they have the same last name, so that's another thing. And I think maybe somewhat similar of a play style that they would have in Detroit. So, yeah, I think those guys are the closest that you can compare. Romeo's much smaller. Flowers is much smaller. Danny Shelton is like 40 pounds bigger. So he's kind of more to Nick Williams' size. That's who I would compare him to. But I like his athleticism. What do I mean by that? He has a little bit of versatility, and I think he would fit in this defense schematically. I've seen, you know, Matt Patricia's defense for years now. I know what he's looking for in players. And when I look at Quinnen Williams, he gives you that, right? He's a player that gives you what Matt Patricia would be looking for in the interior of a defensive line if that's what he thinks his team needs. So I think he would fit this team. He can play nose tackle. He can bounce to defensive tackle. I think he fits the scheme. But what I like about his athleticism is I like how quick he is off the snap. This is like little things that you pick up on when you watch a guy a lot. So, for example, if you're going to pull a guard, if you have a guard lined up across from Quinnen Williams and you pull that guard, he is so athletic that he's quick enough to actually beat the next blocker to come over and take him out of the play. So he can actually explode to the backfield and get a hand on the running back or the quarterback before the play can even happen, and that disrupts everything. We've seen a guy in Grady Jarrett do similar things. I'm not comparing him to Grady Jarrett, but the athleticism side of things, I see that. I see that explosiveness off the snap, and that's what I like. He's also pretty quick for a 300-pound man. Like, I mean, dude, you weigh 300 pounds. That athleticism is super impressive. He ran a 4.83 40. Like, I don't even know if I could run that. I mean, this is a big dude. So the athleticism is there. That was something coming out of the draft that a lot of teams liked because it was like, wow, that's a big dude moving. I mean, that guy's moving for a big guy. So, you know, that's interesting on its own. Like I said, I think he'd be a scheme fit on this defensive line. Also, I think he'd fit into rotation pretty well. He's a rotational player right now in New York. If he came to Detroit, he'd be a rotational guy. He wouldn't get 90% of the snaps. Right now, he's getting about 60% with the Jets. He may get 50% with the Lions, okay? Because you already have Danny Shelton, John Pennicini, Nick Williams, Deshaun Hand. Maybe even less than that. He'd be a rotational guy at least for his first year. That's what I see. People may not want to hear that because like, whoa, second round pick, you can't be a rotational player, but he would be. I mean, he would be. He wouldn't be a guy that's out there 90% of the snaps. I just don't personally see that, right? Danny Shelton's still your starter. If you're going 3 defensive linemen, he's not going to be one of your starters right now. I just don't see it. However, in the next upcoming years, he could all of a sudden take over that role. I just don't see it right now in his game. But I think that he would fit the rotation pretty darn well for the Detroit Lions if he was here. Also, I think he has a very bright future. We know about what his potential is. But here's kind of what I touched on before when I said it's kind of like a risky pick, because I think it's a lot for the future as much as it is for now. Yes, he helps you a little bit now, but it's a lot about the future, and I see a bright future with him. I just don't think he's that guy yet. I think if you want to make a trade right now and you're just like, hey, we don't care about the upcoming years, we just want the best defensive lineman we could possibly go get, I think that's J.J. Watt. I've watched J.J. Watt play this morning as well. I think Watt's that guy. I'm watching J.J. I'm saying, look, Yes, he's on his final year. Yes, he's old. Yes, he gives you nothing for the future, and you're pretty much giving up a draft pick, and you're just getting a rental. But J.J. Watt, to me, is the best defensive lineman that you can go grab right now, not Quinnen Williams. However, Quinnen Williams is more for also the future. J.J. Watt doesn't give you that unless you're going to give him some big extension, which I don't expect the Lions to do, especially not knowing their future. But that could make actually more sense, not knowing your future, because you know what? Then he's not on the contract anymore. So, to me, the best defensive lineman out there right now is J.J. Watt, but Quinnen Williams is also a little bit for the future. His ownership and Sheila Ford and, the very top of the front office was looking at this and said, hey, look, you have, the ability to make this big trade if you want to go make a trade, if you think that's what you need to help win this season, because I believe they're behind him, right? They kept him for this year because they want to make it work too. So they may want to be like, okay, you know what? You guys can make this move if you think this is going to be such a big deal. I think this move makes more sense, though, than the J.J. Watt move, because even though Watt helps you more this season, in my opinion, he doesn't give you anything after this year. He's probably going to walk, and you're probably not going to extend him. The thing is, Williams is cheaper. You're going to get him for 2 more years. He's going to help you a little bit this year, but also for the future. Your future defensive line could look like Quinnen Williams, Ja'Shawn Cornell, and John Penisini. Think about that. You could have your future pretty much locked up, and you have Austin Bryant, right? You have Austin Bryant, who's going to be returning. We'll see when he gets back. Julian Okwara. That could be your future. That could literally be your future at the front 7. So you could potentially lock that thing up. So I actually think this would be a really nice move to make. They're given the goal that, hey, look, you guys can go make this move if you want to go make this move. You can make it happen if you want to make it happen. You guys know me. I personally believe that the Lions are a good enough team to be a playoff contender this season as they are structured. And I think if you make a move like this, then you could potentially be even maybe a little bit more than that this season as you are structured. And then all of a sudden he also helps the future, which I think would make a lot more sense than getting a rental for now, because I think Williams does do enough. And Watt's probably going to have a pretty high asking price as well. Maybe not a second round pick, but it's probably going to be sort of high. But Quinnen Williams, second round pick, I get why it's such a high asking price. He was out of Alabama in college. He was the 3rd pick in the draft, and I just see the fundamentals. I see a guy that's very disciplined, and Matt Patricia just preaches fundamentals, being disciplined, hand placement. He preaches all that stuff when it comes to defensive linemen. And what I see from him is he's a very fundamentally sound player. And one thing again that we look at with defensive linemen constantly is read and react, and the best way to test that is screens. And I saw him against the screen the first time a little bit late. The second time, however, I saw a very, very good read and react. He saw his offensive lineman, the guard across from him, leak out for the screen. Instead of running for the quarterback, he stopped, he realized it, and he got back. And he actually got a hand on the running back, and it was incomplete pass. There was no flag. Maybe there could have been one, but the running back was so close to line of scrimmage, there was nothing there anyways. But he jumped to it, and he took away the screen. A 300-pound man took away a screen. I'm like, oh, man, that's a big play. Like, that's big time. That's discipline. That's the guy that Matt Patricia wants. He wants smart players that are ready to go. So if he's going to make a trade, that's what he needs. And Quinnen Williams gives you enough of that right now where I can see Matt Patricia being interested in. Also, his upper body strength is incredible. In college, he was known to be a guy that, hey, look, I can stuff the run, but I can also give you something in the pass rush. And while his production hasn't been crazy so far soon, I'll tell you why, and we'll get to that. But I also think his upper body strength is really good. He could do a lot of different moves in college, but he's just one of those guys that every once in a while will flash, and he'll just throw an offensive lineman off, and he'll get to the backfield. And it's like, wow, he just tossed that guy. Like, that's a grown man he just tossed. Yeah, I mean, he's got that strength. I mean, that's kind of the thing that you draft, and you're like, look, we can't teach that. We can't teach this monster. Effort. The effort is awesome. You just see him chasing down plays. Even if he doesn't get involved, you just see him, he's running behind. It's like, oh, he's trying. He's trying to get back in the play. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But the effort is something that you just see, that you just have to kind of keep an eye on after plays. Like, okay, how much effort is he giving? He's on an 0-6 team. There's talks of him being traded. How much effort is he giving? Well, it's still there. It doesn't seem to be lacking. So that's another thing that I like. And I think his best tape, if you want to see him, was against the Denver Broncos. So if you go watch him against the Broncos, I think you'll see his best film, especially when it comes to shedding blocks. But that pulls me over to his weaknesses as of now, where I think he needs to improve and where I think he definitely could improve in the next couple of years. But if you're talking about right now, I think these are his weaknesses as a player. First up, his pass rush production. Now, if you look at his stats, let's run through his stats. 2019, 13 games, 9 starts, 2.5 sacks, 28 total tackles, and 6 quarterback hits. Everybody's looking at that. Jets fans have seen that, and they're like, oh, that's not good. That was their 3rd pick in the draft. That's not good enough. This season so far, his stats have been better, right? He's played in 6 games, started in all 6, and he has 2 sacks, 24 combined tackles, and 2 quarterback hits. So the stats aren't insane. They're not like popping off like, oh, wow, this guy's killing it. But it's like, okay, I see a little bit of an improvement there. But still, there's just something that seems like left to be desired. However, I'm telling you right now, if this guy was in Detroit, that would be pretty similar to what his production would be. He may pick up an extra sack here or there, but I see the production being super, super similar because I think what the system that he is in and what he's asked for and what he'll be asked for in Detroit to do is not go get 7 sacks. They want guys to stop the run. The Lions can get pressure if they can stop the run. They want a rotational piece. They want guys that can clog the middle. They want him to be part of the future, but he also has enough pass rush where it's like, okay, when I bring 4, every once in a while, he may flash and make a play in the backfield, and that's great. But I'm not looking at him and saying, okay, look, this is our pass rusher. This is our pass rush specialist. Because that's not what Matt Patricia wants. He doesn't draft guys like that. He drafted John Pennicini. He brought in Shelton. Those guys aren't pass rush specialists. Those are your big dudes. Nick Williams. Those are your big dudes that stuff the run, and then they may give you something in pass rush. If you watch Grady Jarrett's so talented that, look, they even run, stunts and things to him to get him to the outside. And I see enough athleticism where I think in the future, that's the potential. So the potential is super high. I see the potential is incredibly high. I just don't know if he's there yet. I think he's just still trying to polish things up in the NFL, and he's still trying to get there. But I would say don't be worried about the production simply and say, okay, this is not a good player. Because I think you have to watch the film and see what the system he's in. He's in a system that's playing a lot of 3-4, that's asking him to be that run stuffer to shut down the run, and he's not going to get tons of sacks. I mean, usually a lot of teams are going to be double teamed. It's about, filling the lane, getting your arms out there, shutting down the run, and then all of a sudden you get pass rush opportunities on third downs with linebackers and maybe him as well. Next up, I don't think he's that guy right now. I don't think he's the best playmaker. Like I said, I just don't see that yet. I think J.J. Watt is the best right now available, but I think in 2 years we could be saying that this is the best guy, that this is the best, he's our best passer. You could be saying 2 years from now he's our best defensive lineman. It's possible. It's very, very possible. I see that potential in him. Don't think he sheds blocks super well, and one of the biggest concerns right there, it seems like a lot of NFL guys are touching on, is his lack of reach, his length and arms. It doesn't allow him to shed blocks very well. He doesn't shed blocks consistently. He's very inconsistent when it comes to shedding blocks, but what he does do in the run game is he's very good at making plays while engaged. Getting an arm off, trying to make a play, still getting involved, but he doesn't shed blocks consistently enough. He doesn't consistently get to the quarterback. He doesn't consistently win one-on-ones enough game in and game out where I'm saying he's just that dude where it's like, oh my gosh, you just added Aaron Donald 2.0. Like, that's not what he is. You're adding a guy that can every once in a while flash, pop up your screen, help you in the run game, be a rotational piece, that in 2 years from now could be that dude. He could be that dude. He's just not there yet. Caught with his hands too high. I think his pad level's too high. His leverage gets too high when he gets tired. He doesn't stay low. And some other times when he gets tired, he gets too low and he just kind of falls. And it's like, oh, snap, the alignment just pushes him on the ground. So I think, there's some stamina things that happens. And he'll be a rotational guy, so he'll be fine with Detroit. You guys can answer that question in the comments below. But I'll say this. The reason that I'm concerned to make a trade like this is not because I don't think he can be great. It's not because I don't think there's potential. It's not because I don't think he helps us now. It's because I don't know the future of our front office enough to say that the Lions would be willing to allow Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn to give up a second-round pick to bring in a defensive lineman. That's a lot for the future. I get it. He will help you now. There's no doubt he's going to help you now. He's going to help you in the run game, which I think is the most important thing, honestly, right now for us. So that's great. That's awesome. I just don't think he's completely polished to where he's giving you the most right now. He's more of a guy that for the next 2 years, he's also going to get better. And it's like, okay, this could be a cornerstone as Shelton's contract expires, right? As Nick Williams' contract expires. This is great. And also, it's a lot. Bob Quinn, he loves his draft picks. So it's a lot. I think on paper, it makes more sense to get a guy like Quinnen Williams because he can be here for the next couple of years, even if it means giving up a top pick because of his age, because of his discipline. Kind of wait and see with you guys. So I don't want to let you guys give up a second-round pick knowing that, hey, potentially you guys might not even be here next year, so someone else is left without a second-round pick. And if we're going into full rebuild, now you don't have one of your top picks in the draft. I don't think that's something the Lions are going to allow them to do. So what I see is good, not that guy yet, but he would help you right now. Now, when it comes to other guys, like I said, I think J.J. Watt's the most right now player for you if that's what you're simply looking for, but he's not going to give you anything for the future. You're probably not going to extend him. Other guys, I love Golden Tate. We're not going to make the trade. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, but I just love Golden Tate. I just love his character. I love the way, he goes about and his swagger. It's awesome. But Ryan Kerrigan's another interesting guy, but I don't think Ron Rivera's going to make that trade. But again, you just never know. When the offer's there, sometimes you jump on it. And again, Ryan Kerrigan's another guy like J.J. Watt, right? He's not Quinnen Williams. Williams is interesting because guys like this don't come available very often. It just doesn't happen, right? You're just like, that's not right. That's why the asking price is so high on him, and that's why I would be okay with it. I would have no problems with it, but I'll also be okay with the Lions passing because I understand both sides. I think there's a clear argument for both sides, and I think both sides have points. The biggest problem right now, the biggest obstacle right now is not knowing their future. It's not knowing what Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia's future is because you put this thing on him that says you have to be a contender, otherwise you're not going to be here, right? That's basically what you said. So because that's there, it doesn't give you that freedom and flexibility to say we can make a big trade like this. Hopefully, you know, from the film and stuff, you guys get what I'm saying. I think you always have to make your own judgments. Don't just look at, okay, he was a third pick, so he's great. Don't just look at, okay, this is what Bob said, so he's great. Don't do that. Don't just look at, okay, what did he look like coming out of the draft? Because he's been in the NFL for a year and a half. You can look at that. I just don't think he's that dude yet, but I think he would help you this year. There's no question. And I think for the next couple of years, it'd be awesome to have this guy on the roster. It's just, I just don't think the Lions would let him do it. So there you go. If there's any other names that come up, we'll talk about it. But until then, thank you for watching. I'll be out with my prediction later, and I'm out. Are you kidding me right now? I had to put my helmet on for this one. Are you kidding? Look at this. Look at all these members. What? Yo, hey, shout out to all the members, man. Look how many All-Pro members there are. Like, literally, it's the whole screen, dog. This is crazy. The patrons, of course, the Hall of Fame members, man. Y'all got the gold color. It's kind of yellow, but it's supposed to be gold. Shout out to all the members, man. If you want to be a part of this, all you got to do is join the channel. But there are perks that come with it. Stay locked in the community tab if you are a member, because that's where a lot of information comes out. I appreciate all of you. What?